All right, so get this. Today's deep dive, we're actually turning watching movies into serious research. We're
Oh,
diving into Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
okay.
But before you think we're just rehashing, like, a sci-fi classic, I promise this goes way beyond killer robots. We're using T2 and the source material that you shared to kind of wrap our heads around some really big questions about AI.
Mhm.
Mainly, can a machine actually become self-aware? And if so, what happens when that machine is designed for warfare?
It's pretty fascinating, isn't it? T2 really tapped into, I think, some of our primal fears about AI, even back then. But
Yeah.
what makes it so relevant even today is
Mm.
how it goes beyond the simple, like, machines as monsters trope.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's not just mindless destruction. You
Uh,
see this especially with Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator.
yeah,
He's sent back to protect John Connor, but there are these moments where he seems to be actually learning about humans, not just following programming.
absolutely. And that's where, like, T2's genius emerges.
Mm.
Remember the scene where the Terminator tells John Connor, I see a storm on the horizon.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's subtle, but it suggests an awareness, an understanding of the future that goes beyond his original mission.
And that ties directly into what our source material was exploring, which is AI sentience. Could a machine programmed for one purpose, like, say, winning a war, ever develop the capacity to understand things like morality or even, feel emotions?
And if that's even a possibility, a remote possibility, it throws open this Pandora's box of ethical questions.
Oh, yeah.
And the source material really highlights how crucial it is that we like grapple with these questions now
Right.
while AI is still in its relative infancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where our conversation takes kind of a turn, right?
Okay.
Because the sentient Terminator might like feel like pure science fiction,
Right.
but the idea of AI controlling weapons is something we're facing like right now.
And that's where I get tripped up a bit, right? With the Terminator, at least, he was learning, evolving. But the source material talks about AI controlling arsenals, and that doesn't seem to have that same nuance. That feels like straight up programming, right?
Huh.
Just tell the AI, this is the enemy, go get him.
Yeah, you've hit on a really critical point. The source material actually uses this term, control, to describe this exact fear.
Okay.
Essentially, it's the risk that AI, even without developing consciousness, could malfunction or misinterpret data
Right.
in a way that leads to unintended and potentially catastrophic consequences.
Okay, control. That's basically a fancy word for things going really wrong really fast. We're talking about machines with the capacity to end lives, maybe even start wars, all based on algorithms and code. It makes Skynet seem less like a movie monster and more like a terrifying possibility.
Yeah, and it gets even more complex when you start thinking about, like, the rules of war.
Right.
Right, like the Geneva Conventions, for example, which are designed to, protect civilians, limit unnecessary suffering.
Yeah.
How do you program those ethical considerations into an algorithm?
That's what I keep coming back to, the human element. Can a machine ever truly understand the value of human life, the nuances of a battlefield, the ripple effects of violence?
It's a question that keeps some of the brightest minds in AI up at night, Because even if we could, like, perfectly program an AI to follow every rule, every ethical guideline, there's still the risk of hacking or cyber warfare.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's one thing to worry about nations clashing over ideologies or resources,
Yeah.
but imagine a world where wars are fought by algorithms hacking into each other's systems, launching attacks without any human intervention. That's a whole other level of terrifying.
Okay, I gotta say, I need to like come up for air after that one.
Yeah.
It's a lot to absorb,
Mhm.
thinking about AI going rogue, launching attacks without like any human intervention.
Right.
Makes you wonder, with all the advantages AI offers,
Yeah,
are we just like inviting a whole new set of risks?
by bringing it into warfare.
It's a question the source material grapples with directly.
Okay.
On the one hand, there's the kind of seductive appeal of AI,
Yeah.
right? Like the potential to make warfare more precise,
Right.
to reduce civilian casualties,
Mhm.
to even act as a deterrent by making the cost of conflict, way too high.
I can see that. The idea that AI could actually make war less destructive in some ways.
Right.
But isn't that like a dangerous gamble, though?
Yeah.
Trusting that the algorithms will always work as intended, that there won't be any, unintended consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where the source material's emphasis on Terminator 2
Mm.
as kind of a cautionary tale, I think,
Mm.
becomes especially relevant.
Okay.
It's not just about the like the technology itself,
Right.
but about the choices we make and how we develop and deploy it.
Exactly.
If we're not careful, if
Yeah.
we kind of prioritize efficiency over ethics, we could end up creating the very monsters we fear.
It's like that moment in T2 when the Terminator tells John, the future is not set. There is no fate, but what we make for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even though we're talking about machines, algorithms, the future of AI is ultimately in our hands.
Precisely. And that brings us back to, like, the core issue.
Okay.
The question of control.
Right.
How do we ensure that, humans remain the ultimate decision makers?
Right.
Even as AI systems become more sophisticated, more autonomous.
So where do we go from here? How do we harness the potential of AI without unleashing, a Skynet scenario in the real world?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The source material suggests that we need to be having these conversations at, like, every level.
Right.
From the engineers designing these systems to the policymakers setting the, like, rules of engagement to, everyday citizens who will ultimately be impacted by these technologies.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, but I guess that's the point of these deep dives, right?
Right.
Terminator 2 might be a work of fiction. Yeah.
But it's a powerful reminder that the future of AI is not predetermined.
Yeah.
It's a story we're writing right now, and it's up to us to make sure it has a very different ending.
Indeed, the power and the responsibility lies with us.
Well said.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the possibilities and the potential pitfalls of this brave new world. Join the conversation online, let us know your thoughts, and until next time, keep exploring those big questions.